Today we welcome Albert Archuleta. That's a cool last name, by the way.
Archuleta.
Archuleta. Do you pronounce it Archuleta or Archuleta?
It depends who I'm talking to.
There you go. With me, how would you say it?
Archuleta.
Archuleta. I like that. Okay, so welcome to the show, brother.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we've known each other for a while. The way we met was through your craft, the craft of being a barber. How long has it been since you became a barber and a business owner? By the way, and a massive entrepreneur as well. So how long has it been?
I started barbering just over 10 years ago, in 2013 in October. And I opened up my business in about June of 2016.
Okay.
Around the same time I met you.
Same time you met me. Okay.
Yeah,
So we met when it was store number 1 then.
Yeah.
And then how many stores do you have now?
3 locations now.
3 locations. So tell us where they're located.
So the first one that I started is in Murray.
Okay.
Just right off the I-15 freeway. The next one is in West Valley.
And this is all Utah, by the way.
Yep, West Valley, Utah. And then the third one, I've been wanting to go to Orem. So the third one's in Orem, just right off Center Street.
Okay, so you're all the way down here now in what we call Utah County. Cool.
Yep.
And the name of the business, what I love about you is you're always rocking your brand. So you
Always.
believe in you. So the name of your business is?
Regal Barber Co.
Love it, love it. And why did you choose the name Regal?
So when I was looking up names, I knew I wanted to start a business, and we're all about, as a barber, you're there to take care of people, treat them like royalty, treat them like kings, and that's the vision that I had, and that's what I had been doing since I started barbering. So I was like, okay, cool. I want to start a barbershop to let people know, we're going to treat you right, treat you like a king. So I just looked up, just different possibilities, and I saw the word Regal, and it just kind of, I was like, oh, I like that. I also like the old school car, the Regal, so, I just was like, all right, cool, Regal Barber Co. So
Beautiful. Awesome. And you have a wide array of clients. You service a lot of everybody's a VIP, obviously, at Regal.
Right.
But a lot of business people, a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
Like you've been able to really cater to a broad spectrum of clientele, which that's a special skill. Not everybody can do that. So props to you for understanding emotional quotient, meaning emotional intelligence, to be able to take your sales skills and take them out to market.
Right.
Now, every once in a while, I see you posting stuff about your background, what your past is, because you're really proud of where you are today.
Yeah.
Do you mind digging in just a little bit of your upbringing and kind of how you started your entrepreneurial spirit, maybe off the beaten path a little bit?
Yeah.
Whatever you're willing to share.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, I grew up with a stepdad and a loving stepdad, loving mother, it was good. And I grew up in Kearns, Taylorsville, and like West Jordan area. And it was cool. As I started getting older, becoming a teenager, my parents started splitting up. So, obviously as a kid, you want to be accepted. So I started kind of going out to the streets and venturing out. And
did you feel like some of that acceptance wasn't being granted at the house?
I'm sure. Yeah. Now that I look back at it.
Now
that I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, it's, that's what it was. So yeah, I had a lot of friends that I was real close to, and, sometimes they'd get in trouble, and we'd run the streets, and, I wasn't in sports. I wasn't, I didn't get put in anything to kind of keep me productive. That's why I got my kids in sports now, because I understand how important it is to keep the kids busy. So yeah, I just started running the streets a little bit, got in a little bit of trouble. I have family members that, gangbang and sell drugs, and I had family members that are like, hey man, you need some money? I could show you how to make some money, and it just started just selling a little bit of weed, I get X amount and, sell it, break it down and sell it, make a little bit of profit. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That was easy. I didn't even have to work. But even before that, even while I did that, I even started a job doing sales, door-to-door sales when I was younger too. Yeah, I used to sell newspaper subscriptions for the newspaper agency. So I did that for a while. So, I'm always like trying to make money, right? But when I started selling drugs, I was kind of like, yo, this is like a little fast track. Like, I could skip some steps, So I started doing that, and, just one thing led to another. started selling more drugs, getting into other kind of drugs that I was selling. Just got mixed up with the wrong crowd. A lot of it was family. Obviously, I'm the one that made the choice to, decide to gangbang and stuff like that. So, yeah, just over time, I just started selling more drugs. And, that just ultimately landed me in prison. I caught some, I was just being reckless. I really didn't care. The people that I was around, they all went to prison. So to me, it was normal if I went to prison. It was almost like you're earning your stripes, or, that's just what it was. It's just like the path that we was following. So
yeah, that was the culture. That was the system that you were a part of.
Right.
What was your wake-up call? Because obviously there was a wake-up call. When was it? What was it?
Well, a huge wake-up call is when I was in prison. I had 2 kids by the time I went to prison. So I had my daughter at 17, my son at 18. So then I went to prison when they were about 2 and 3. And just being away from them, like prison, handling myself, I could do that, like when it comes to being in that environment, that was something that I was used to. So it wasn't like it wasn't the best, but I could handle myself, But what I couldn't handle was getting letters about, your kids are doing this and that and not being able to help them.
Yeah.
And then even fast forward to towards the end of my bid, my daughter came and visited me one time and just seeing her, when she had to leave, just seeing her face when I had to go back and she had to leave, she was super sad. And, that broke my heart. So.
That was a wake up call. So you had a big why, and that big why gave you the hows of how to get out of that life.
Right. And
then I guess what would the advice be to people that are maybe thinking about getting into that fast track, which is really a slow track? Right. Lies have speed, but truth has endurance.
Right.
At some point, the truth and right is going to settle in, and that fast track is not going to be a fast track anymore. In fact, that's going to put you way behind.
Way behind.
So what would the advice be for the young entrepreneurs that are thinking about maybe doing it the wrong way when they should be taking the path that you're on now?
Right.
What would the advice be?
That's one thing I love to do. I love to mentor, these young kids that are on the path. I don't know if you noticed, I was coaching boxing for a while too at a youth, so I like helping inner city youth and people at risk. We go cut hair at the VOA, time to time, which is all, inner city youth that are in trouble. And, a lot of the things I do, I just kind of talk to them.
And hold on, they listen to you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because been there, done that, gone through it. They listen to you probably more than somebody like me that hasn't gone through those experiences.
Right.
Because you're like, hey, I'm speaking from experience. Listen to me.
Right.
I know what it's like. I did it. You don't want to do that. So you're a powerful voice now for folks.
And I look like that. They see my tattoos. They see my gold chains. They're like, yo, you look like you sell drugs. And to me, that gives me an opportunity to kind of their guards down,
Yeah, they trust.
And I could let them know hey, I've been through a hard time. I've seen all that. And, you think you see the light, but really it's just, it's not what it seems.
Yeah.
It's lonely, getting locked up and going through that and going through a lot of those hard times. So, I'm always looking at these guys and just try to guide them and just let them know there's a different way. I'm over here risking money in business, but I'm not risking my freedom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're gaining freedom.
Yeah, in prison, you're literally risking your time, your money, and everything, and you're not even building a solid foundation at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So I like to tell the guys yo, just look into other situations. I didn't think that I could ever, be owning a business. I would never think that I would own a business, back then I didn't even think that was an option, let alone multiple businesses, you know what I mean? So it's more just believing yourself and letting these kids know, there's people out there that are good people that'll mentor you, you know what I mean?
And what I learned too, Albert, is, when you're in that crime world or whatever, you have to be right and lucky many, 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 many times.
Yeah.
How often do the cops have to be right or lucky? One time to catch you. So your odds are stacked against you.
Right.
Like they say, the house always wins.
Right.
At some point in time, you're going to get got. You're going to get caught.
Right.
So it's just not worth it, guys. There's so many ways to do it the right way.
So many.
And the right way, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the easier way.
Right.
So you can actually sleep well at night. You can have a really soft pillow, which is a clear conscience. That's the softest pillow in the world.
100%.
So you spend time mentoring. you're developing your business. You have a booming business. You have a lot of great clients. How many people do you have in your company? How many barbers do you have? And staff in general?
I think within all 3 locations, somewhere about like 25.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 25 people that work in your organization, and then you have a product line too, right? And a merchandise line.
Yeah. I like to do that. It's fun. I like to make product and hats and, just all that. It helps me be creative.
Okay. And then I know that you even do some corporate events. You go into companies to do VIP treatments and basically giving back to the employee base. So maybe talk about that experience, how that's been for you.
Yeah, that's great. We first started in 2016, thanks to you, and I greatly appreciate that. And since then, we've had plenty of inquiries all the time, and I like to do events. We just recently did an event at the University of Utah to kind of help bridge the gap of the students understanding that going to a barbershop is not just getting your haircut. Like, it's a way to kind of get to the community, open up to somebody, really just kind of let them know that this is a place where you can talk. A lot of men don't have that, you know what I mean? So it's a place where men get together and you kind of express yourself. And, that's the goal of the universities when they have us over there. So it's called Barber Talks.
Barber Talks.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's awesome. So we go over there, we do a pop-up shop. And I mean, I've done different things like bartender recharge, where they took care of a whole bunch of bartenders and we're just the barbers. I like doing events like the sneaker convention. Like, that's how I ended up, I got this, we're about to do a sneaker convention / expo, and just networking through there and, doing pop-up shops kind of put me in a position to do that, and build those relationships. And yeah, I mean, it's nice, being a barber's fun. Working in the barbershop's fun. Like, it's the culture. You got the people. And you
still cut hair. You have your own clients.
I'm leading from the front,
I love that. Why do you lead from the front? What's the science behind that?
I mean, number one, I love to cut hair. I love to mentor. I love to watch people grow. And the best way I can really help the guys that are in my shop is just kind of just sit there, observe, cut hair, and have them watch me, Like, I got certain clients that'll pay me great, and it kind of helps my voice when they see my clients pay me a big ticket. And then, then when I go to talk to them and say, hey guys, and I try to mentor them, that kind of adds more, just gives more of a voice for me to kind of reach them.
So do you feel like your business is more, you're a mentor that just so happens to cut hair?
Yeah, definitely.
Or are you somebody that cuts hair that just so happens to be a mentor?
I don't even know. it could go both ways.
So I think at this point, if you want my feedback, I believe you're a mentor that just so happens to cut hair. Cutting hair is your vehicle. It's your platform.
Yeah.
It's your art form that you absolutely love. Like, I think you would, obviously money is important, but you're so passionate about it that you would do it for free because you're so passionate about it. And because you're willing to do it for free, you're able to charge massive tickets because you're so good at it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah. So dollars follow value, not the other way around. So when you're really good at creating value for people, those dollars, you can command them in a really high fashion. Your pricing elasticity goes up, right? Where value is increased, dollars are able to chase that value. Anytime you have more value than what the price is, a transaction will always occur. Yeah. And you have, correct if I'm wrong, but you have clients from afar too that come see you. Yeah. That travel from distant places, don't they?
Yeah. I got a client that comes from Florida and
all the way from Florida.
He has business out here, obviously, but he would prefer to get his haircut in Salt Lake with me because he likes the way I do it, our relationship. He's a business owner. We have good conversations. So he comes from far. And, even from Salt Lake, I had a lot of people from, Utah County that came out. That's why I wanted to reach out to there, and vice versa. I still got people that come from Utah County. If I can't get them out there, they'll still drive to Salt Lake.
That's amazing. And then this question might throw you off, but how many lives do you think you saved through your counseling, your mentorship?
Man, probably a good amount. I can say that. Yeah, a good amount. I enjoy that.
Did you ever think about that question?
I never have, no.
But now that I'm asking it, I'm sure that the numbers have to be pretty up there. Yeah. Because as a barber, you're not just cutting hair. Right. Again, you're a counselor. Right. You're a psychologist. You're talking people off the ledge. You're saying, hey, right, don't go down that path. Switch it up. Right. Look at my story. Yeah. So
there's some that I really wish I could help that I haven't been able to. And sometimes I think about that more. But there's definitely a lot that I was able to kind of mentor. Like, I've been doing it for 10 years now, so I've watched boys turn into men, and, just being able to cultivate that relationship of, constant growing myself helps them do that as well. So I've been able to watch a lot of people from my chair to even the people around me. I've had people that work for me that were homeless at one point, like when they started, and those are usually the roughest ones to just kind of mentor, but I could relate to them. I've been homeless. I've been there with them. So I feel for them, and I always see the good in people. So to me, it's a blessing that I'm able to be like, hey, let's start working on these thinking errors. Let's get you to read these basic books. Let's get you up. Like, let's go. Like, I see the potential. You got the skill. You want to be here. You're here for a reason. So, let's get to work.
Love that. So what do you do personally to up your game as far as education and having more resources to be able to share with others in the world?
For me, I like to read books. I like to listen to books.
What's your favorite book? And it probably varies from week to week.
But How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's my favorite book.
Why would you say that one? Dale Carnegie.
I feel like I just lacked a lot of communication skills, growing up, and how to deal with people. But there was also things that I was good at. So that almost helped show me what I wasn't doing right and then what I was doing right. So it kind of helped me dial into, like, really being myself and understanding and being able to be more influential to people.
Love that. Yeah. So in How to Win Friends and Influence People, he says really, like, the most beautiful sound in the world is their own name. Their own name, right? Just something as simple as that. And I notice you do that super well in your shop. You call everybody by their name. It's like they belong there. They're a part of the family. And you do fantastically well with that. And even understanding that people want to be listened to. And quite often when we're in selling mode or in business, we quite often listen to others to respond. Yeah. Instead of to understand. So in sales, and when we're trying to do transactions, if we're just listening to respond with the very best go back or one liner, we're not going to capture people's hearts and minds. And it talks about that in How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you think about it, you're in the people business. Right. You're developing your barbers, you're acquiring talent, and you're developing to be the best in the world at what they do, to be Regal. Yep. Okay. And then we talked about this earlier. You got in trouble because you weren't finding the attention at the home. That's probably one of the factors. And I say this all the time, but if you want to meet the devil, you'll meet him in idleness. So when you're idle and when you're just bored, you do dumb stuff. Right. If you think about it, when we were kids, when you were throwing rocks at stuff or doing dumb things, it's because you were bored. Yeah. But if you were playing basketball or you're on a team or doing gymnastics or at dance or at cheerleading or volleyball or whatever, you were so busy, you didn't have time to do the dumb stuff.
Too tired to do.
Yeah. So with your kids, you mentioned it, you have them in sports, you have them in activities. How has that helped in your parenting? Because I'll say this, the scariest hood, you went through some scary hoods. Yeah. The scariest hood you ever go through is parenthood. Definitely. So talk to me about what you do as a dad and making sure that your kids are dialed in.
Yeah, that's always been a priority to me because, I didn't have that growing up, and I had got my son into boxing when he was around 8 years old. And by the way,
your dad served some time as well, right?
Yeah. My dad went to prison for selling drugs as well, so... Yeah, so I didn't want my kids to do that. I don't want them to follow in my footsteps in that aspect. So, I kind of looked at the root of the problems like, I need to keep them busy. We need to channel that energy, and like it started with my stepson. He was he was about 8 years old, and he just had a lot of anger, and he used to like to work out. Like I'd do some push-ups, and he's like, I want to do some push-ups. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. So, I saw that he would have that anger, get into it at school, and he comes from a family of boxing, on his mom's side. So they all grew up doing that. So I'm like, why don't you do boxing? His grandma got him into it, signed him up, and I took him. And, as I took him and I was watching and I just saw him channel his energy into that, and he was such a beast, and I was just like, dude, you can really kill it, and he did. Like, his first 2 fights, I think he went in unprepared, lost, got beat up, and as a dad, I was crushed. I was like, man, I feel like I got beat up in there, you know. I was like, yo, they had to stop. They're like, yo, his nose was so bloody. They're like, hey, hold on, stop. Is he all right to keep fighting? They had to ask the doctor. So I was a little, you know, bent about that. So what I did was, you know, I started paying the coaches to train me personally. I'm like, hey, man, like, teach me how to, like, the fundamentals, because, you know, I've gotten a couple scuffles, but, you know, not a boxing, you know, that's way different, you know what I mean? So they trained me, and you know, he went from 2 losses after, you know, took a 3-month break. He had a great coach that helped train me and him, and he after that he won 11 straight, took second in the national tournament, and it just, doing that just kind of showed me so much. Like, I learned so much just watching the hard work, the discipline, because I so bad wanted to help him and his confidence, and, you know, just get him to win. That, you know, me and him were training so hard and winning that, like, even the other boxers were like, the kids were like, hey, Albert, can you come train us? I'm like, yeah, but, you know, we're not playing. Like, we're boxing for real. We're not slacking. We're not hanging out. We're coming to work, and then we're gonna get busy, and then we're gonna leave. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you know, that's kind of what it did. And you know, just, you know, back to your questions, like, I watched that directly help, you know, him, and put him in a position. And in the meantime, you know, my daughter and my son, they had played basketball, and they did great, you know, little junior jazz. It's not all year round and stuff like that. So, you know, I just kind of decided to spend a lot of time with my kids and, you know, get them to focus on that, you know. Even my daughter's mom, she spent a lot of time, you know, getting them, because we weren't even together. But she spent a lot of time putting her in AAU, and, you know, we'd go to the games and check it out. And you know, since then, like, my kids are very disciplined. They're way better than I was, you know. Like,
that's great. Like, no, that's great parenting, and it's great foresight. And what's really cool about that story is, not only did you have your son doing it, you actually got so involved that you were doing it yourself. So you could be that much better of a dad to have something in common with your son. Right. And now it became something that you guys have created together, and it's beautiful. Right. So it was
some of the best times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Traveling and training, and, you know.
That's great. So being, and this is what's interesting, is we interview a whole bunch of different CEOs and everything else, and, you know, you're a CEO with a ball cap and the gold chains and all that stuff. So how does it feel to, you know, be a CEO and be a business owner, and know that a lot of people are counting on you on a daily? It's not just you, because your foresight, your energy, your innovation, your capitalization of your business is a lot of people are depending on you. So how does that mantle feel for you? Does that keep you disciplined? How does that?
Yeah, it definitely keeps me disciplined. I mean, I got people that work for me. They got kids. They got to work out. You know, I have to grow for them to grow. So the pressure's on me. But, I mean, going back to, like, you know, idle time, like, if I didn't have that pressure, you know, I might get bored. And, you know, I like to stay busy, productive. I got that pressure on me. And for me, that's where I perform. You know, that's where I do the best, when I have a lot of pressure. And it just makes me want to work harder and learn more, and, you know, see how far I could take my team, myself, my family, my kids, you know. So sometimes it gets a little overwhelming when I go through my own personal things, and I got people that are depending on me. But I have a great team to where, like, if I have those times, or those, you know, those moments in my life, I trust my team, and I can let them know, and they handle it.
What are some best practices for you to be able to foster a team that cares about each other and is there for you in the moments in which you may not always be able to be there for them? Because life is life. Life happens, you know, ebbs and flows. The only constant in life is change. So sometimes you can have really high energy, everything is flowing, and then you have personal things that you have to tend to. Yeah. So how have you developed a high performing team to be able to, you know, take the charge when you may not be able to always be there for them in these defining moments?
I feel like I do my best to serve them. You know, I do my best to do whatever I can for them, invest time, energy, personal time, you know, talk to them on the phone, mentorship. And the more I pour into them, they're just, you know, they reciprocate it a lot. So
by pouring into them, they're willing to pour back into the business and to you. You've made those deposits emotionally, so you can take those withdrawals whenever you need to. Yeah. But what happens is, and this is rhetorical, so I'll just pose the question, is what happens is, if you're not putting in those emotional deposits with your people, with your team, and you're always taking withdrawals, your bank account's going to get emptied out. Yeah. You're going to have a negative deposit. You're going to have a negative number in there. So make sure that we're always giving more than we're extracting. And it feels and sounds like you do a phenomenal job at that. Because everybody I encounter that works with you has been a part of what you do.
Yeah.
They absolutely adore you because of the opportunity that you provide and how servant of a leader you are.
Yeah.
So props to you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next question I want to follow up with, for people thinking about getting into entrepreneurship that maybe today are working somewhere where they may not feel fulfilled, they're just collecting an hourly wage or a monthly check, they don't feel fulfilled, they don't feel like they're creating significance, and they want to take that entrepreneurial leap. Albert, what counsel would you give? How would somebody get started?
I mean, I always say, obviously, get your mind right, read books and get started. But as far as making like a actual effort, it is hopping online and searching up different ideas, figure out what their passion is, what they like to do, as a person. That way you don't like kind of set yourself up doing a job or a business that feels like a job, So like if you're into like, serving people, start looking into different schools for, different service options and stuff like that. If you're into products, if you're passionate about your beard and you want to make some beard products, start looking at what the different ingredients are and just finding a niche, For me, I like my barber had told me like, yo, you should be a barber, and I kind of was like, at the time, I only did a couple haircuts. In prison, we did a haircut with the razor. So like you just shave it and then you put the razor on the comb and you fade it like that. And I really didn't like love it, but the dude was so happy and I got paid. And I was like, dude, I didn't want you to pay me. I wasn't super proud of it. But, me doing that and, later my mentor, which was my barber at the time, he, encouraged me to start barbering, and I took the risk, So that's kind of the big thing is like, I went from working construction, warehouse, not knowing anything about barbering. I even had people close to me saying like, no, you shouldn't do it.
Why were they saying you shouldn't do it?
Just because they didn't think, well, number one, because you're not able to make money while you're in school.
Or do you think it could have been, hey, you're going to get ahead of me if you do this and own your own business, and I don't want you to getting ahead of me. I like you when we're equals or you're below me, but you're threatening me if you get above me.
I got made fun of for being a barber from my homies. He was they'd be like, oh, what, you're a barber? Like, and I'm just like, yeah, that's what I am. You know what I'm saying?
Are they making fun of you now?
No. They're looking for mentorship now. You know what
go.
I mean? So
there you go.
But going into it's scary. You got to take risks, and that's probably one thing I could relate.
But do the rewards outweigh the risk that you thought you were taking?
100%, 1000%.
Would you, now knowing what you know, have not taken the quote unquote risk?
Yeah, no.
So you know what the risk would have been? For you to stay status quo, for you to keep working those jobs that you weren't fulfilled in, just collecting the paycheck instead of actually doing something that you're passionate about, that can just expand like crazy, and that you're in charge of.
Right.
So ultimately, you can show up to work or not show up to work. It's up to you.
Yeah.
You're choosing to go and cut your own client's hair because that's a passion of yours. You enjoy it. You love it. But do you have systems put in place where you could just watch the 3 shops and let them flourish?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could.
Yeah. And if you really truly want, let's say that right now your answer is a little bit gun shy.
Yeah.
But if that was your strategy, could Albert put together a system where these 3 stores could be dialed in where they're running themselves?
Yeah.
And that's the power that you have of being an entrepreneur and a CEO and a business owner.
Right.
So that's a beautiful thing. And then Albert, I know you also have a passion for teaching, and we talk about this all the time. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential. It's the application of knowledge that's power. And I know that you firmly believe in helping other people have applicable knowledge that they can put into practice like day one. So what are some of the things that you do to help foster the power of knowledge application out there in the world?
I love to teach at the barber schools. I like to do classes. I've been to, a lot of the different schools from Salt Lake to Utah County to Ogden.
So how does that work? You have barber school. Explain how that whole world works, because I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so to get your barbering license, it takes 6 months. So you go to school, you learn, they have you start on mannequins, they have you, do the theory classes, understand all like the different safety precautions that you need to take. And then you go to school for 6 months, and that's just kind of where you learn, where you mess up. You know what I mean? Like I know when I was in school, I messed up a lot. Like that's, people come in, they want a $5 cut. you take care of them, and, you're under the guidance of your instructor and stuff like that. So, yeah, you do that for 6 months. So I actually was cutting hair at Vivint every week, every Wednesday, for the inside sales, and that they had kind of stopped it for a little bit. So I went to the barber school because, that's where I was looking for barbers, and I went to go over there to look for them. And, yeah, I went in there and I actually talked to the owner's wife, the owner had passed away a couple years prior to that, but she was the one that like ran the school. And, we're talking and she's like, hey, do you know anybody that's, looking for, trying to be an instructor? And me, I had never been an instructor. I had my instructor's license because I had one apprentice at the time. And she was like, yeah, you could start over here if you'd like, and offered me a position. And that was cool because prior to that, like for me to get a job, like I'd have to go through a background check. A lot of the times they would tell me no because I have a felony, and so they just offered me the job.
What's interesting is you can be a business owner, but you can't be an employee.
Right.
Crazy.
Right. So she offered me the job and I went over there and I found another passion of mine. Like, well, it just kind of helped discover my passion of like teaching and kind of narrowed in to where I'm like, yo, I can actually start helping these students from the ground up. And then because I owned a shop and I was good people, I had a lot more impact at the schools. So from there is kind of where I like started teaching from the ground up, started recruiting. And then, from that point, like I got a lot of, good feedback and I was able to start teaching at the different schools. Like they'll reach out to me or I'll reach out to them. Like Paul Mitchell, might be a beauty school and they're like, hey, we want you to come talk, tell your story, do some haircuts. And, I'll just go there, tell my story and it's a great time.
Do you think your story teaches even more than the actual technicality of cutting hair?
Yeah, definitely. I get a lot of messages after I'm done with my class that people that can relate to it that are like, hey, you don't understand how much this class helped me. I hit the school's been hard lately. It's hard to build clientele. It's hard because, when I started, I was slow. I wasn't that good. I had a whole bunch of hustle, but I have a lot of skills. So I really had to push hard to build clientele. So that's my main thing. I like to give back and I like to show them like, yo, this is what you got to do. You're in school, I would love to tell you what you want to hear, but this is what you need to hear. You guys got to get to work, start building your clientele, and it doesn't matter about your past. Like right here, move forward. This is where you're going to really have a opportunity to take yourself to the next level in this career.
Love that. So let me ask you this. You just mentioned hustle and you mentioned skill. When you're seeking out people that work with you and when you're mentoring, would you rather have somebody with a lot of skill or would you rather have somebody with a lot of hustle?
Definitely hustle. I hire off work ethic and, personality. Like if somebody has great customer service, they go out their way to take care of the client. That's perfect. We can cultivate that. If they're not that good at cutting hair, that's fine. We could teach the skill. We have a whole crew of people that help each other. Our culture is like, be your brother's keeper. Like if the guy's next to you struggling on a haircut, don't be afraid to ask him if he needs help or, have that person ask the person next to him for help. So when it comes to that, like I'll hire. If somebody's just hardworking, they want it, they're hungry, I love that. Because awesome. I didn't know how to cut hair at all when I started school.
Beautiful.
So,
okay, Albert, so many nuggets, so many gems, so many discoveries, so much of removing of lids. This has been spectacular. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Let me end with this question. So, living life by design. So when you hear that phrase and when you have watched the podcast and have read books on the topic, final words of advice for all the viewers. What are some of the things that you do that people should be doing that you've discovered that work really well for you in regards to living your life by design? It could be on the topic of social, of physical, intellectual, spiritual, any of the above. What would be some of those key nuggets that you can leave us with today as we sign off?
The main thing that I really like, that I've worked on in my life is to always be able to, just trust the process and know that everything's going to be okay. I've been through a lot of hard times. I've been through, just dark times and by myself, but I always, kept that faith that everything's going to be okay. And, I could work myself out of this, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I like to, tell people and share with them. Like, if you go through hard times or some bad things happen, like, it's okay, like just keep it pushing. Work hard, work on yourself. I always try to look inwardly when when things happen to me, you know, whether it's my fault or not, I still try to look in and see what I could do to help, you know, fix the situation, or, you know, how I could take accountability so I can kind of just work through that and, you know, just understand it's going to be okay. And, you know, things always end up okay and even better, you know, like
that's awesome.
A lot of these hard times made me appreciate these great times, you know.
When you were going through some of your hardest times, did you ever imagine that your life would be as good as it is today?
Not at all. Not at all. If I would have even asked myself 10 years ago, you know, I had like 10 years ago, starting barber school, you know, just being out of prison a couple years, they had put me on as soon as I graduated, they put me on a barber probation, you know, and I was just like, man, this is tough, you know. So I went from, you know, being on barber probation to being able to own my own business, mentor other people, and open multiple locations. And to the point where right now I got so much opportunities, such a great network, and, you know, I just keep getting blessed. So
awesome. You are blessed.
I wouldn't expect
and
it.
Keep blessing too. You're a light to this world, brother. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
Much love to you, brother.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on with the success, brother. Much love to you.
Yeah, thank you.